There are 3 different ways of implementing CSS into your websites. And this lecture, we're going to talk about the first kind of way to implement CSS in your website, and that is inline CSS. I went ahead and created a new folder on my desktop called CSS, and this is where we're going to have all of our examples and practice pages when we're working with CSS for this course. The previous folder we had was HTML, and that's where we had all of our HTML files for the HTML section, but the CSS folder is going to have our examples that we're going to be working with. Keep in mind, they are going to be HTML files as well, but the point of it is to keep all of our CSS lectures in one spot. So go ahead and open that CSS folder from your desktop in your code editor. And if you're using brackets, it would be the exact same as what I just did. If you're using Coda, it would be very similar. If you're using something like Text Wrangler, what you would do is create the folder on your desktop and then start a new file and save it within that folder when you save the file. Hopefully that makes sense for you Text Wrangler users, but I'm assuming most of you are probably using brackets because it is free. Okay. So first we're going to do is create a new file and call it inline.html. And we're going to just create the basic structure here. And because I don't have an example here to copy off of, we're just going to go ahead and code it out. Okay, here we go. Here is the basic structure. And what we're going to do is I'm going to add a paragraph tag here, and I'm just going to put some text. And let's just say this is a paragraph tag with inline CSS. Okay, so I am going to open up a browser window here just to show you what we're working with live. If you are using brackets, obviously you could do what I just did and copy what I just did, hit the little lightning bolt, and this will open up your browser window beside it so that you can follow along in real time. But if you don't have, if you're not using brackets, or Coda, which also has a live preview, you could just go ahead and in your CSS folder, click on the inline.html file, and it'll open up in your browser. Okay, so inline CSS is basically CSS that is in line with the HTML. So it would look something like this. You add a style attribute, and here's where we add our CSS like you saw in the previous lectures. This is how you would add, let's say, color and orange. So now our paragraph tag is orange. Now, before we go forward, you might be wondering what this blue line is, and you might have seen it in the past few lectures. It seems as though brackets will highlight in the sample browser here, the live preview of the HTML file, what element you're currently selecting. So my cursor is literally on the line 9 with the paragraph tag, and that's highlighting that. If I were to go to the body, it would highlight the entire body, and so on and so forth. And that's just for preview purposes. It doesn't actually show up in the real site. So don't mistake it as a blue border. Speaking of blue borders, we can actually add a blue border. Why don't we just say border solid 1 pixel blue? So you can see it didn't actually show up very well because the brackets border was hiding it. So let me just move out of the way. And there we go. You can see the blue border is actually there, and that is the CSS. So why don't we make it pink? Move out of the way, and there we go. You can now see a pink border. So this is inline CSS, and you can add more styles here if you want, but it's good to know that you shouldn't actually be using inline styles. Very sparingly, it can happen in certain cases, but remember the very basic principles of HTML and CSS. HTML is meant for the what? Meaning of the site, the structure. And CSS is meant for the presentation, meaning how it looks. So this is combining the two. And now HTML all of a sudden has presentation involved. It's no longer simply a document that conveys the meaning or the structure of the document. This isn't the best practice. This is how they did it in the old-fashioned days. So we won't be doing that. I just wanted to show you for just for the principle of the whole thing. that is one way of doing CSS. The next one we will cover in the next lecture. So we'll see you there.